Welcome to Navarrero's online showcase video. Today we are back at the Iron Mine base camp. I didn't actually change too much about the yard over here. I just wanted to show you guys my progress update in terms of the equipment. We now have, I think, 12 hopper cars, which is a decent amount. Really allows me to make a lot of money selling the iron ore to the smelter or even bringing it down to the pier. But even more importantly than just the cars, we have another engine. Number 4, Ironheart, and it's of course the Uinta 062ST. By the way, if anybody knows what the S in ST stands for, please let me know. I know that the T is for tank engines since it doesn't have a tender, but the S is something that I'm not familiar with. But yeah, this thing, I think I talked about why I wanted this in the past episode, so I'm going to make this quick. 13k effective effort, really good amount in order to get enough stuff to the iron mine over there. The continuous 2% grade is quite the hindrance, especially for any of my road going engines. Neither the Montezuma nor the Eureka are really all that amazing when it comes to climbing. But yeah, this one, pretty good. Doesn't matter that it's a lot slower than the other engines. Again, the climb up to the mine isn't that long. Also enough coal to last me for a while. It's far bigger than the Ruby Basin's coal bunker, so this should be good to go and stay that way for a long time. I haven't connected to the coal mine yet, and I'm not entirely sure if I will anytime soon. The next thing we need to talk about here is also in regards to the iron mine, but on the way there I would like to mention something because I may have subsidized my own business, meaning that I cheated in a little bit of money, but I kind of kept it on a very limited budget here. The thing that I did was I added the porter that I have at the docks to the starter safe because I think that's a pretty decent engine to have there. And it's not really game breaking or anything, but I thought just to start out with that was a pretty good one to put there. And I also added a few cattle cars to the starter safe as well. And simply the cost of all of these things, which I didn't start out with on this save, I just gave myself a money back for that. Which allowed me to get things going a bit quicker. But the thing I wanted to talk about up here is actually that, well, I don't mind this location too much, but after using it for a while, especially in conjunction with the base camp, which is basically a layover yard to hand over the stuff from the road going engine to the industry special engine, and yeah, I don't really enjoy the operations up here too much. I think, in terms of what the map provides, this is one of the better locations for the iron mine. It's still very, very low in the mountains compared to just the base height. This should be the exact same height as what we have on the other end with base camp. So the climb isn't really all that significant. And ideally I would have preferred a larger platform over here in order to build a proper yard. I don't want one which is extensively large, but I would like to have something at least of the size that we have in Pine Valley. This thing is really pathetically small, and without making it look absolutely goofy, I cannot really extend it any further. So that's all a bit weird, but I can't do too much about it because there aren't that many good spaces on this map to begin with. So it ended up being the whole base camp feature for this playthrough, and I don't know, might be for better or worse. I think it's kind of for worse, but there's only so much I can do about it. So yeah, the iron mine, not all that interesting. I would have liked to do something better with it, but yeah, I didn't get any location for it that could facilitate anything else. Now let's go over to the smelter, because that's the next logical location in our journey, but also one with similar issues. So we have a long and very flat run from the base camp over to this place. Also, it's on the same height level as the logging camp. So really barely any limitation or challenge getting over here. To be clear, I like the smelter to be in a location which has enough space to really expand the operation, especially when it comes to the part of the yard that's supposed to deal with cordwood, since that can get out of hand pretty quickly. And sometimes it kind of needs to, because otherwise, yeah, it's not going to be fun if you can maybe have like 20 cordwood cars and that's about it. The problem here for me is that the trip from any location before this industry, like the logging camp, like the iron mine base camp, to over here, there is no challenge. It's just kind of a bit long. Really, I would have liked to put this thing into a different location. I think putting it onto the plateau down here would have served it a bit better in a few ways. Because then I would at least have to take care of a grade up here. Maybe make it a 1% grade if I can. Really figure out how to make it work the best that's possible and all of that kind of stuff. So that would be a lot more interesting in that sense. The problem is, if I place it down here instead of over here, all the runs would be longer. Not too much of a difference for the iron mine base camp over here, and the same is true for the logging camp, because they are somewhat in the middle of the map. But the coal mine, the ironworks, and the gold mine, they would be suffering for that. And yeah, these are ultimately the reason why I put this somewhere in the middle of nowhere up in the northern end. I think it needs to be here for the sake of these other industries, which are all in pretty interesting locations. So nothing really I could change about them, and therefore this one had to suffer. But really I would have preferred to have a few more options which would be potentially more interesting. But yeah, it is here for a good reason. But I still found it boring just running back and forth from here, so this is the point where I go over to the wheat farm again, because I think there's something more interesting to be done over there than what I have going right here. To be clear, I also started working on a different connection here to get to the smelter in a more straightforward way. Right now the hoppers still have to come through the logging camp, and if you remember what I talked about operating this yard, there is a pretty good chance that at some point the tracks will all be blocked off by cars. So it's not really a reliable replacement for a main line. And instead of having another track just completely bypassing this area by going straight through it, but all the way past everything regarding the logging camp, just having a long run around it, I decided I wanted to do it over here, but I kind of forgot to put in the Y. So really there needs to be another track connecting from here to there, and then we should be all set up. Because this is the track that goes past the water farm or water well industries and onto the main line, but we now also have another connection over here. First up, allowing me to go straight onto the main line in this direction, but also going across it and then right towards the iron mine base camp over here. So this would be the shorter trip, but it's not really fully implemented right now. Another thing that I have over here is another shortcut. And this is for selling stuff at the docks without having to go across the plateau. Because right now my road engines cannot really make it up the 2% incline onto the plateau. So I decided to have another shortcut over here, going straight to the line that goes alongside the beach and not up onto the plateau, and instead bypasses the entire thing. Without it, anything coming through here would have to go up towards the water wells, through that long tunnel, through the mountain, past the wheat farm, and then coming down on this side. And this way it's really just straightforward to where it needs to be. So that's a lot better in my book. I haven't used this either though. To be clear, I made a trip where I took as much stuff where I could load from both the sawmill and the logging camp, and also I think 3 loaded hoppers at the time, to give myself a bit of money by selling to the pier. But that was a while ago, and also another reason why I have this kind of money right now. So let's finally talk about the wheat farm. This is where I'm going to focus on again, and I want to make this into a large scale operation, and also just a really complex one. And the reason for this is that this might be something I cannot do on my MIA playthrough once I get back onto that one, because on that one I have my wheat farm in a very limited area. I don't have much space where I put it down. So this might actually be my best shot at getting this up and running. And maybe if I can make it work on a small footprint, I could then copy it over to the other playthrough. But as it is right now, I'm still in the process of figuring this entire thing out. Right now, this is already the second version of my yard over here. The first one, well, you could basically go into the industry here and have a switch going onto the left side. So you would go straight up to the loading platforms, and that would work out in a pretty easy and straightforward manner. But it really only worked with trains that were short enough that I could load everything at once. I'm going to expand it past that option, so I need to be able to load either side here however I want, and completely independently from the other one. And also especially taking care of both goods how it's required. So whenever I need to load something, I need to be able to do so. So here is my idea for that. On this end we will have bulkhead cars. One side will have empty ones, the other one will be loaded ones. And whenever I need to load something, I just pull it ahead to the conveyor belt. And the other side over here is doing the same for the box cars. Empty ones are going on this track, loaded ones are going onto this track, and yeah, the helper engine, when in use, will be just on this track in between. It has its own place over here, and I already bought a helper engine. So I went with a class 48 for this one, named it Farmhand, and I mean, this one has been in the game for a long time, apart from the new and fancy paint job here. But this one is amazing and working out pretty well. It's almost overkill for the kind of job that it needs to do here. But hey, better something that's a bit too strong than too weak. And yeah, when not in use, the engine is going to sit in here. When I need it, I can just pull it in here, and then I can deal with all the loading that I need to. But yeah, that's only one side of the entire industry, and more of a minor business compared to everything regarding my main train here. The train that I'm assembling here has two main uses. First up, we want to load up the output product from the wheat farm, meaning that I'm going to take both the grain and the straw bales, load them up onto the bulkhead cars and into the boxcars, and then take everything over to the cattle farm, which of course is the farm that needs the stuff. So from this point on, it's all going to be unloaded again, all the cars are empty, and then I want to take the train over to the nearby freight depot at the pier, which means that I will then load it up with the seed pallets in order to produce more stuff over here. That's actually pretty convenient because seed pallets also go into the boxcars, meaning that I can use the boxcars both for the grain and the pallets, meaning that they are not ever really going to be transported empty. The problem here is that my wheat farm output, for every 2 seed pallets that I put into this thing, I get 1 grain or 1 ton of grain and 1 straw bale. So I need twice the capacity for the seed pallets as I need for the grain in order to keep my output consistent. And yeah, this is where it kinda gets a bit difficult, because basically my train is going to have 2 types of cars, but they are going to be in 3 different groups. Bulkhead cars, straightforward, get loaded over here, take all the straw bales and get emptied out at the cattle farm and remain empty until they get back here. First group of boxcars is going to get loaded over here, taking in all the grain, bringing it over to the cattle farm, going from the cattle farm to the freight depot empty, and then being loaded up again with seed pallets. The third group, and this is what I don't really have explicitly right now, is going to be a different color of boxcar. They are not going to be loaded over at the wheat farm. They are going to accompany the rest of the train empty until they get to the freight depot, at which point they are also going to be loaded up with seed pallets. So 3 different groups, and due to there being 12 tons of capacity for grain, but only space enough for 14 seed pallets, the entire math here is getting kinda screwy. If I was looking forward to only using the long cars and fully loading anything, I would need almost 100 cars to get everything fully loaded how I want to. So, especially for my PC here, which is already dying as it is, not a good idea. I might be able to downscale it to about maybe a quarter or something of that entire capacity. The only downside is that some of the, or at least one of the boxcars supposed to load the grain as well, will only get a partial load. But at least the boxcars, once they get all the seed pallets, are going to be fully loaded, and same with the bulkhead cars when taking in the straw bales, so I'm happy with that. I was considering maybe taking some of the smaller cars, but honestly they are terribly unstable, especially if you cannot just put them on the end of the train. And with how my operations here work, I need to take care of putting the stuff in the right order. So here is how that's going to be. In order to get the cars into this lane, basically the bulkhead cars need to be at the rear end of the train, followed by the boxcars that are supposed to end up on this track here in order to load up the grain. So the entire train would be reversing into this area through this track, just going all the way into one of these sidings in order to unhook the bulkhead cars and just park them over here. Then it will pull back up ahead with the boxcars and unhook them over here. So they will be parked on this lane, at which point the helper engine can come in and take all the cars from this track, pull them ahead, and put them onto this one. This is where the empties are supposed to be. Once they are loaded up, they are getting put onto this track again. And once everything is being loaded, the helper engine will get back onto its own track to be out of the way of anything else. And then simply the engine is going to reverse back into this track, connect to the loaded boxcars first, then connect to the loaded bulkhead cars on this end, and then also picking up the empty boxcars over here. And from that point on, it can get going and do all the deliveries and everything. Should be good to go, nothing too complicated. Might have to figure out how to properly turn the train around at the pier. There is a way to do that, but with there needing to be a certain direction to the cars, I'm not entirely sure if I do that correctly now. I think it should be fine. But yeah, later down the line we come back around here, need to empty out first up the boxcars that are supposed to be on the loading side as well. So those need to be emptied in order to load up the grain again. Then I also need to get the other bulkhead cars somewhere onto one of these sidings in order to unload them later. And then get everything else back into place in order to load that up again. And there's a whole other problem with that right now. I know it's getting a bit much, but bear with me. The problem is that even with my shortest configuration where everything kinda works out, even with one partially loaded car, I need to unload the boxcars that are also going to load the grain in sections. I cannot unload everything at once, and therefore I think I'm going to need a different setup here to bring in the empties separately. I mean, I could potentially just pull them ahead in here and have another connection to this siding, so that would be straightforward and should be alright. But I think ideally I would like to have maybe rearrange the tracks over here. Make the incoming track the left one, then the middle one for the connection towards the helper engine, and the right one ideally should be one that just bends around here. Not that I think I can make that bend work as it is right now. But yeah, I need to do something like that in order to get the cars in pretty quickly. Also, I need to take care of unloading the water at the right timing. So there's a lot of stuff to consider here. Not straightforward, not too easy, but I think this is the most interesting challenge that I have on this map right now. And to be clear, I have already given myself quite a bit of money with my change to the starter save and me just reimbursing myself for the kind of money that I had to spend in order to get the same resources after the fact. I will likely end up just giving myself a huge amount of money at this point in order to just do the operation and figure them out with as much money as I need to, because right now I'm running kind of low on it. I have almost 3k, which is nice, but the first thing I need in order to do anything here is a stronger road engine. I could go with a Class 47 as a significant upgrade, but preferably I would just skip that one and go straight to a Twin-C. That's 7k. I can potentially get that money by doing another iron ore run, but honestly I'm bored of that, so yeah, I don't really want to put in the time and effort because I don't find that interesting right now. The second thing is getting more bulkhead cars. Right now all of these are the same color, meaning that they are supposed to be the ones that are loading the grain. I need to get, I think 3 of them in order to fill up as much as I need to on the in order to get enough for the group that's supposed to load both the grain and the seed pellets. Only then am I good on that one. I would still need, I think, another 6 of them for the seed pellets only. And since each of them is almost 1k, you can do the math yourself. I'm needing almost 10k for this part alone. And besides that, I also need to extend my train for the water supply here. I want to get rid of the shortcast. They are not really doing it for me, but in order to at least get some capacity, I decided to go with only expanding it for now. But ideally, I want it all to be the long cars, and they are also almost 1k per car, so that's another big investment. Besides that, we have a whole another problem going on right here, and that is the cattle farm. Of course, we need a place that also receives all our goods here. And this thing needs to be set up differently in order to make that work. I mean, I think it could work as it is, but it's going to be a tight fit. So maybe I need a bit more. This could just be barely alright, but we'll have to see about it. If I go for the full-length train with almost 100 cars where everything would be fully loaded up, then yeah, this would be way out of its league. But yeah, for the shorter version, which I have in mind right now, this might actually be alright. But I still need more cattle cars, and they are also not cheap, so yeah, that's another investment. And last but not least, I think even on this shorter version of my supply train, I would really like to expand my pier. I would like to get back to 3 sidings right here, as I had on the original location. So I would have to see how I make that work. I think a realistic plan here would be maybe angling this switch a bit differently, so that I can have this siding a bit further on this side, the middle one also a bit further in the middle of the entire pier, and then another one to the left. Just because even if I only slightly lengthen my train, it's not going to fit onto the pier anymore. I could also try and maybe expand this further back, just expanding my entire platform here with my stone walls and that kind of stuff, but I think that wouldn't be the best solution right now. Especially since some of this stuff needs to go around the bend, and yeah, it wouldn't be amazing having to deal with that. But yeah, something about this needs to change in order to accommodate the longer train. And I don't think it's going to work as it is right now, so I would have to see about it. So yeah, a lot of stuff coming. Might take a while even with me doing, or even with me giving myself some money. Because honestly, while this is a decently interesting operation, I would have liked this entire map to be interesting, and it's just not right now. So I'm gonna have to see when I get to it. I might also finally try and get my other PC back running. I can transfer the save to the other one once that one is going again, but we'll have to see about everything here. Honestly, after playing on this for a while, I had my few moments where I thought, man, I wish I was on Aurora Falls, and we all remember how that save turned out, but I think there's still more interesting stuff to be done there. Maybe I can eventually figure out how to get the pier onto that save file as well. Should be possible, but we'll have to see. But yeah, for now, we're gonna have to wait and see. I will do a bit more. I will likely just give myself give myself enough money for the remainder of this playthrough, just so that I can focus more on ironing out the kinks of my yards and the different operations that I want to plan out, instead of just mindlessly running trains back and forth and getting bored while doing so. Anyways, that's gonna be it for me for this episode. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the matter. And until next time, thank you all for watching, have a good one, and goodbye.